The clock had just struck midnight when it happened. After a grueling 12-hour shift at the auto repair shop, a young mechanic was driving home through the quiet suburbs of Atlanta. His hands were still stained with engine grease, and all he could think about was the leftover pasta waiting in his fridge. But life had other plans that night. Through the misty drizzle, his headlights caught an unusual sight: a sleek, silver Cybertruck parked awkwardly on the shoulder of Old Oak Road. Next to it stood an elderly woman, probably in her late 70s, helplessly pointing her phone's flashlight at a flat tire. Her silver hair was getting damp in the light rain, and her floral print dress seemed out of place in the chilly night air. He could have driven past. Anyone would have understood. It was late, the weather was turning nasty, and he'd just finished a long day's work. But something about the scene reminded him of his own grandmother, who'd passed away last year. She used to say, "Kindness doesn't cost a thing, but its value is priceless." Pulling his beat-up Honda Civic behind the Cybertruck, he grabbed his tools and stepped out into the drizzle. The moment his work boots hit the pavement, he noticed the woman's body language change. Her shoulders tensed, and she took a small step back, clutching her designer purse closer. He'd seen that reaction before, too many times to count. "Evening, ma'am," he called out softly, keeping his distance. "I'm an automotive engineer. Couldn't help but notice you might need some assistance with that tire." He pointed to his work shirt, still bearing the logo of Pete's Auto Shop and his certification badges. The woman's expression shifted slightly, moving from apprehension to uncertainty. "Oh, yes," she replied, her voice carrying traces of a southern accent. "I tried calling roadside assistance, but they said it would be at least 2 hours. I've never had a flat in this thing before. It's my grandson's car. He insisted I take it while mine's in the shop." As he approached the vehicle, his eyes lit up with professional interest. A 2024 Cybertruck? These are fascinating machines. He knelt down to examine the tire, already noting the unique challenges this particular model presented. "The tire system is different from conventional vehicles. Mind if I take a look?" The woman nodded, still standing a few feet away, but curiosity was beginning to replace her initial fear. She watched as he efficiently set up his tools, explaining each step of the process. "You really know your stuff," she remarked, gradually moving closer. "Been working on cars since I was 12, he replied, grunting slightly as he positioned the jack. "My dad owned a shop in Memphis. He taught me everything I know about vehicles, especially the new electric ones. These Cybertrucks are something else though, like working on a spacecraft sometimes." As he worked, the rain began to let up, and so did the tension in the air. The woman shared that she was returning from her weekly bridge club meeting, which had run late. She'd felt the tire blowout just as she turned onto Old Oak Road. "I'm Rose, by the way," she offered, now standing close enough to hold her phone's flashlight steady for him. "Pleasure to meet you, Rose. Almost done here. Just need to torque these lugs down to spec." His hands moved with practiced precision, each movement purposeful and sure. The whole process took less than 20 minutes, but it was enough time for something unexpected to happen. The walls between two strangers began to crumble. What neither of them realized was that this simple interaction, happening on a quiet street in the middle of the night, was being captured by a nearby doorbell camera. And in less than 24 hours, their chance encounter would spark a conversation that would reach far beyond their small corner of Atlanta. As the young mechanic finished securing the last lug nut on Rose's Cybertruck, the night air filled with unexpected warmth, despite the lingering drizzle. "Would you like to check my work?" he offered, stepping back to give her space. Rose's eyes crinkled with a smile that reminded him of warm Sunday afternoons. "Oh honey, I wouldn't know what I'm looking at," she chuckled, but moved closer anyway. "Though I suppose it's about time I learned. My grandson keeps telling me these new electric vehicles are different from my old Buick." The mechanic pulled out a clean shop rag and wiped his hands. "Well, your grandson's right. Mind if I show you a few basics? Might come in handy." When Rose nodded eagerly, he began pointing out different features of the Cybertruck, explaining them in simple terms that made sense to her. "See this display here?" He gestured to the touchscreen. "It'll tell you if tire pressure gets low before you end up with another flat. And this button." He demonstrated the vehicle's automatic leveling system, making Rose gasp in delight as the truck adjusted its height. What happened next surprised them both. Rose pulled out her phone, but not out of fear this time. "Would you mind if I recorded some of these tips? My bridge club ladies all drive new cars now, and heaven knows we could use this knowledge." As he walked her through basic maintenance checks, Rose found herself sharing stories about her late husband, who'd always handled their car repairs. "He would have loved all this new technology," she said softly, "though he'd probably still insist on checking the oil himself." The mechanic laughed, remembering his own father's stubborn ways. "My dad's the same way. Still doesn't trust the computer diagnostics, has to listen to the engine himself." He demonstrated how to access the Cybertruck's diagnostic system, and Rose recorded everything, asking surprisingly technical questions that showed her quick understanding. Neither noticed the bedroom window that had lit up in the house across the street, where a teenager watched the scene unfold through rain-spotted glass. The teen's phone captured the unlikely duo, a young black mechanic and an elderly white woman, both laughing as they hunched over the Cybertruck's sleek hood, illuminated by streetlights and the soft glow of the truck's display. "You know," Rose said thoughtfully, tucking her phone away, "I was frightened when you first pulled up." She met his eyes directly, her voice carrying a hint of shame. "I'm not proud of that reaction. My generation, well, we weren't always taught to see clearly." The mechanic nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Fear's a natural response to the unknown, ma'am. What matters is being willing to learn and change." He shared how his own grandmother had taught him to meet prejudice with patience and understanding. She always said that hearts don't change through argument, but through connection. Rose touched his arm gently. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise woman. Would she mind if I borrowed that saying for my next bridge club meeting? We've been having some important conversations lately about making our community more welcoming." As they wrapped up their impromptu lesson, Rose insisted on getting his business card. "The ladies at the club won't believe this story," she said, carefully tucking the card into her purse. "But more importantly, I know quite a few people who could use an honest mechanic." What they didn't realize was that their interaction, captured in that teen's video, was already being uploaded to social media. The caption read, "Just watched the most beautiful thing. Prejudice and fear turned into learning and laughter." This is how change happens, one rainy night at a time. #humanity at its best. #Cybertruck community. As they said their goodbyes, the rain had completely stopped, leaving behind a clean, fresh scent in the air. Rose climbed into her Cybertruck with newfound confidence, while the mechanic headed back to his Honda, both unaware that their simple encounter was about to touch thousands of lives in ways they couldn't imagine. The teenager who captured the video, a high school junior named Alex, couldn't sleep that night. Something about what they'd witnessed felt important, like one of those rare moments that actually matter. Around 1 a.m., they posted the video with a simple caption, "Real-life moments that give you hope. #kindness." By sunrise, their phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The video had already hit 50,000 views and was climbing fast. Comments poured in from everywhere. "This made me cry. Haven't seen my grandma since COVID. Calling her right now." As a mechanic, this hits different. That patience explaining things. That's how we should all be. The way they both opened up to learning from each other. This is everything. The local morning news team spotted the trending video and scrambled to find its source. They tracked down Alex through their social media profile and arrived on Old Oak Road by 8 a.m., eager to learn more about the nighttime encounter. Alex, still in their pajamas and favorite Nessa hoodie, stood nervously in front of the camera. "I usually scroll on my phone before bed, but something made me look out the window last night. At first, I thought I should call someone, an elderly lady and a stranger in the dark. But then I saw how he kept his distance, showed his work uniform, and the whole energy changed." The news crew was captivated by Alex's genuine excitement. The best part wasn't even the tire fixing, they continued. It was watching them laugh together while he taught her about the car. Like, when's the last time you saw two strangers from different generations just connect like that? The story caught fire faster than anyone expected. A popular automotive website picked it up, praising the mechanic's technical knowledge of the Cybertruck. Several social justice organizations shared it as an example of breaking down barriers through everyday interactions. But it was the senior citizens' Facebook groups that really amplified the message. By mid-morning, Rose's Bridge Club group chat exploded. Her friends recognized her instantly, flooding her phone with messages. "Rose, you're famous. Is this why you were late last night? Tell us everything." Meanwhile, at Pete's auto shop, the young mechanic walked in for his shift to find his co-workers gathered around a phone, watching the viral video. The shop's owner, Pete, a burly man with 30 years in the business, had tears in his eyes. "This right here," Pete said, clapping him on the shoulder, "this is what I've been trying to teach these youngsters for years. It's not just about fixing cars, it's about fixing trust between people." The local Tesla Owners Club reached out to the news station, praising both the mechanic's expertise with their vehicles and the heartwarming nature of the encounter. They wanted to feature the story in their monthly newsletter, highlighting how electric vehicles could bring different communities together. But what really touched people wasn't the car talk or the technical skills, it was the simple human moments captured in the video. The way Rose's stance shifted from fear to curiosity, the mechanic's patient smile as he explained things, the genuine laughter they shared over some unheard joke. Social media experts tried to analyze why this particular video resonated so strongly. Some pointed to its authenticity, no staged moments, no forced dialogue, just real people having a real connection. Others noted how it addressed serious social issues without preaching, showing change happening naturally through simple kindness. By lunchtime, the video had been shared by celebrities, community leaders, and thousands of ordinary people who saw in it a reflection of who we could all be at our best. But this was just the beginning. The next 12 hours would bring even more surprising developments to this unexpected story. The afternoon sun blazed through the auto shop windows as local news crews lined up outside Pete's auto shop. The young mechanic had just finished changing the oil on a minivan when Pete called him into the office, his weathered face breaking into a proud smile. "Kid, you've got no idea what's happening out there," Pete said, turning his computer monitor around. The viral video had exploded beyond their small town, reaching millions of views. Major news networks were picking up the story, calling it a ray of hope in divided times. A producer from a national morning show was on hold, wanting to feature both the mechanic and Rose in a live segment. "They're calling it the Cybertruck connection," Pete chuckled, shaking his head in amazement. Who knew fixing a flat tire could touch so many people? Meanwhile, across town at the Magnolia Gardens senior living community, Rose sat surrounded by her Bridge Club friends, all crowded around Mrs. Chen's iPad. They watched in awe as comments poured in from around the world. "Showed this to my kids, teaching them what real courage looks like. This is my hometown. Finally famous for something good. That mechanic needs his own shop. I'd trust him with any car." Rose's grandson, a tech-savvy college student, had been monitoring the video's spread. He called to tell her it had been shared by several major automotive companies. "Grandma, you're trending higher than cat videos right now," he laughed. "And that's saying something." The video's impact rippled through the community in unexpected ways. The local community college called Pete's shop, wanting to feature the mechanic in their upcoming career day. "Young people need to see that technical skills and human connection go hand in hand," the coordinator explained. A group of senior citizens from Rose's community organized a basic car maintenance workshop, specifically requesting the young mechanic as their instructor. "If Rose can learn about a Cybertruck at midnight, we can too," declared Mrs. Chen, her eyes twinkling with determination. By late afternoon, the story caught the attention of a major electric vehicle manufacturer. Their social media team shared the video with a powerful message. "Technology brings us together, but it's humanity that bridges our divides. Proud to see our vehicles playing a part in connecting communities." Local businesses jumped in too. The coffee shop next to Pete's shop created a new drink called the Night Shift Special, promising a free cup to any customer who shared a story of unexpected kindness. The bulletin board quickly filled with colorful sticky notes, each telling a different tale of human connection. The young mechanic's phone wouldn't stop ringing, but he kept working, staying focused on the cars in front of him. "This isn't about me," he told a persistent reporter while diagnosing a check engine light. "It's about what happens when we take a chance on each other." Rose, too, found herself in the spotlight. Her Bridge Club meeting turned into an impromptu discussion about breaking down barriers in their community. "You know," she said, her voice soft but clear, I almost didn't let him help me. Just think of what I would have missed." The local police department shared the video as part of their community outreach program. This is community policing at its finest, citizens looking out for each other, breaking down stereotypes, building trust one interaction at a time. As evening approached, both Rose and the mechanic received an unexpected invitation. The mayor wanted them to speak at next week's town hall meeting about building stronger community bonds. The topic, Midnight Lessons, How Small Acts of Kindness Can Transform a Community. The video's comment section had become a place of healing, with people sharing their own stories of prejudice overcome, fears confronted, and connections made. One comment rose to the top. "In a world full of viral videos showing the worst of humanity, this one shows us who we can be at our best." But the story wasn't done yet. As the sun set on this extraordinary day, neither Rose nor the young mechanic knew that the biggest surprise was still to come. The next 12 hours would bring an opportunity that would change not just their lives, but their entire community. The next morning brought a buzz of activity to Magnolia Gardens' senior living community. The residents had transformed their usual breakfast hour into an impromptu community meeting. Rose sat at her usual table, surrounded by eager faces as she showed them the basic car maintenance videos she'd recorded on her phone. "Look here," she demonstrated on her phone. "He showed me how to check tire pressure using the Cybertruck screen. No more guessing games." The senior residents leaned in, fascinated by the mix of traditional knowledge and new technology. Mrs. Chen, the retired physics teacher, spoke up. "You know what? We should start a technology and car basics club. Not just for us seniors, let's invite young people to teach and learn with us." The idea spread through the room like wildfire. Meanwhile, at Pete's auto shop, something unexpected was happening. A group of high school students had gathered outside before classes, asking if they could interview the young mechanic for their school newspaper. Their teacher had assigned them to write about real-life heroes in our community. The mechanic wiped his hands on a shop rag, looking embarrassed by the attention. "I'm no hero," he told them, "just doing what my parents taught me. Treat others the way you want to be treated." But the students were persistent, their questions showing genuine interest in both his technical skills and his approach to breaking down barriers. One student, quiet until now, finally spoke up. "My dad, he has some old-fashioned views," she said softly. But after showing him the video, he actually listened when I tried to talk to him about prejudice. That's never happened before. The local coffee shop had become a hub of community conversation. People who'd lived in the same town for years, but never spoken, were now sharing tables, swapping stories about times when strangers had helped them or when they'd overcome their own prejudices. At the high school, Alex's video sparked a unique project. The principal announced a new program called Bridge the Gap, where students would partner with senior citizens to learn from each other. Car maintenance was just the beginning. They planned to cover everything from smartphone tips to family recipes. Rose's grandson, impressed by the impact of the video, set up a simple website called Neighborhood Chronicles. Its purpose? To share real stories of community connections, starting with the now famous Cybertruck encounter. Within hours, locals began submitting their own stories of unexpected friendships and broken barriers. The young mechanic's co-workers noticed a change in their customers too. People were more patient, more willing to learn about their cars, more open to talking with whoever was helping them. "It's like that video reminded everyone that we're all just people," one of the newer mechanics observed. By afternoon, the local diner was packed with an unusual mix of people. Senior citizens sat with teenagers, sharing life stories over burgers and fries. A table of police officers invited some young residents to join them, eager to build better relationships in the community. Pete had to hire a part-time receptionist just to handle all the calls coming into the shop. But it wasn't just about car repairs anymore. People wanted to know how they could get involved in making their community more connected, more understanding. The most touching moment came when an elderly man walked into Pete's shop, leaning heavily on his cane. "I've been taking my car to the same mechanic for 30 years, he announced to the room. But after seeing that video, well, I realized it's time for this old dog to learn some new tricks. Who's gonna teach me about these electric cars?" What made this story different from other viral moments was its lasting impact. It wasn't just a fleeting feel-good video. It was becoming a catalyst for real change in how people saw and treated each other. As evening approached again, Rose received a call from the young mechanic. The mayor had suggested something bigger than just a town hall meeting. But neither of them could have predicted how their simple late-night encounter would grow into something that would change their community forever. The story took an unexpected turn when a sleek black car pulled up to Pete's auto shop. A representative from the electric vehicle company stepped out, tablet in hand, heading straight for the office. The young mechanic was underneath a car when Pete called him over, his voice filled with excitement. "They've seen how you handled their vehicle's unique features," the representative explained, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "But more importantly, they saw how you used that knowledge to build bridges in your community. We want to offer you something special." The offer was unprecedented. They wanted him to help design a series of video tutorials about their vehicles, specifically aimed at making technical knowledge more accessible to older drivers. But that wasn't all. They wanted Rose to co-host these tutorials, bringing her perspective as a senior learning about new technology. "Your midnight lesson went viral because it was real," the representative explained. "We can't script that kind of genuine connection. We want to capture that same spirit and help other communities break down barriers through shared learning." Meanwhile, at the senior center, Rose was on a video call with the company's accessibility team. They were fascinated by her insights about how older drivers interact with modern vehicles. "Sometimes all we need is someone patient enough to explain things in plain English," she told them, thinking back to that rainy night. The local technical college caught wind of the company's interest and jumped in with their own proposal. They wanted to create a new program called Community Mechanics, combining technical training with courses on communication and cultural understanding. The young mechanic was offered a position as a guest instructor. Pete couldn't stop grinning as more news rolled in. The shop was selected as an official training center for electric vehicle maintenance, with a focus on making car care more accessible to everyone. "We're not just fixing cars anymore," he announced to his staff. "We're fixing the way people connect." The mayor's office released an official statement announcing a citywide initiative inspired by the viral video. They called it Midnight Mentors, a program pairing experienced professionals with people from different backgrounds, aiming to break down stereotypes through shared learning experiences. Local businesses jumped on board. The diner offered free coffee to any pairs of people from different generations sharing a meal and conversation. The library created a technology bridge program where teens helped seniors with modern devices, while seniors shared life wisdom in return. The young mechanic found himself in front of a camera, feeling nervous but determined. "Start just like you did with me," Rose encouraged from behind the scenes. "Pretend you're explaining it to your grandmother." His first tutorial, showing how to check tire pressure on various electric vehicles, quickly became the company's most watched video. What made these tutorials different was their human touch. Instead of just technical instructions, each video featured real conversations between people of different ages and backgrounds, learning from each other while working on cars. Rose's Bridge Club transformed into something bigger. They now hosted weekly tech and talk sessions, where young mechanics taught basic car maintenance, while seniors shared their own wisdom about life, love, and overcoming prejudice. The waiting list grew longer each week. The most powerful moment came during a live-streamed event where the mechanic and Rose demonstrated basic Cybertruck maintenance. The comment section filled with stories of other unlikely friendships formed over shared interests, proving that their viral video had sparked a real movement. As evening approached, the mechanic sat in Pete's office, staring at the contract from the electric vehicle company. "You know what's crazy?" he said to Pete. "All this happened because I decided to stop that night. Just a simple choice to help someone." Pete nodded wisely. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest decisions. You didn't just fix a tire that night. You showed people how to fix their assumptions about each other. Exactly 24 hours after that fateful tire change, the young mechanic and Rose sat together in a local TV studio. The lights were bright, but their smiles were brighter. The interviewer leaned forward, captivated by their story. "A day ago, I was just trying to get home to my leftover pasta," the mechanic laughed, his work uniform now clean and pressed. "Now look at us. We're here talking about how changing a tire changed a whole community." Rose reached over and patted his hand. "You know what's funny? My grandson keeps telling me I'm trending on something called TikTok. Me. A grandmother who couldn't even check her tire pressure yesterday. The studio crew couldn't help but chuckle at her genuine surprise. The interview took an unexpected turn when the host asked about their new joint venture. The mechanic's eyes lit up as he explained their upcoming video series. It's not just about cars anymore. We're calling it Bridging the Gap. Rose teaches me about life wisdom, and I teach technical stuff. But really, we're teaching people how to connect. You should see our first episode. Rose chimed in, her excitement contagious. We had this wonderful group of seniors learning about electric cars, while young mechanics learned about making perfect pie crust. Who would have thought car maintenance and baking had so much in common? The host displayed some clips from their community initiative. The screen showed scenes from Pete's Auto Shop, now transformed into a community hub. Seniors and teenagers worked side by side on engines, their laughter mixing with the sound of tools clanking. The best part, the mechanic added, other cities are picking up on this. We've got calls from auto shops across the country wanting to start similar programs. It's like people were just waiting for permission to reach out to each other. Rose's Bridge Club appeared in the next clip, but it looked different now. The usual cart tables were pushed aside, replaced by interactive displays about car maintenance. My friends thought I was crazy at first, Rose admitted. Now they're teaching their grandkids about cars, and the kids are teaching them about smartphones. It's beautiful chaos. The host then revealed a surprise. The local technical college had created a scholarship in their names, the Midnight Mentor Scholarship, for students committed to combining technical skills with community service. That's what gets me emotional, the mechanic said, his voice softening. Thinking about other young people who might stop to help someone, despite their fears or prejudices. One small act can start something big. Rose dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. You know what this young man taught me? Age is just a number, and fear is just an opportunity to learn something new. Now I'm taking basic auto repair classes at the community center. The interview wrapped up with a live video call from the electric vehicle company's CEO. Your story showed us something important, the CEO said. Technology shouldn't just connect our devices, it should connect our hearts. We're proud to announce a nationwide program inspired by your midnight encounter. As they left the studio, a group of young students waited outside with their parents. One little girl stepped forward, holding up a drawing of a Cybertruck with 2 stick figures beside it. When I grow up, she announced proudly, I want to fix cars and help people like you. The mechanic knelt down to her level. Remember this, he said gently. The most important tool in any mechanic's box isn't a wrench, it's kindness. Rose watched this interaction, her heart full. 24 hours ago, I was scared of a stranger in the dark, she reflected. Now look at us, we're part of something bigger than ourselves. As they walked to their cars, Rose's Cybertruck and his Honda Civic side by side, they couldn't help but marvel at how life could change so completely in just one day. The sun was setting, painting the sky in the same colors as the night they first met, reminding them that sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a bigger one.